Fatherlessness is really kind of the story of my life, as well as the story of our generation. For 25 million of us in our country, we live in homes that are single-parent homes. There are kids that are growing up without dad. We've never seen a generation grow up with voluntary father absence where the dads just say, I'm gone. This is the first generation in history that we are seeing that happen. When you look at the fatherless issue, it's really the engine driving a lot of our worst problems. Some 80 to 85% of gang members are fatherless. 75 to 80% of teenage pregnancies are from fatherless homes. 65% of suicides are from fatherless homes. 70 to 75% of drug users are from fatherless homes. You look at the huge elephant in the room called fatherlessness, and you begin to wonder, why is no one talking about this? The fatherless generation is branded by rejection. When you show up in a kid's life, you say, I am with you, I believe in you, I care for you. All throughout scriptures, we see that promise. To me, it's the most powerful promise in all of scriptures. It's the promise of the presence. This generation will never believe our gospel, that God can be their father, unless we show up in their lives with the same intimacy that Christ shows up in ours. There are great churches in the world that are doing great things on Sunday morning, and I thank God for them. But unless these same churches turn their face into the community and see the kids right in front of them, and the church as people says, okay, let's step into kids' lives. That's what Christ calls us to do. He calls us to go into all the nations. And so I think that's a godly thing. But if we're doing that and missing those right in front of us, can we say we're loving our neighbor?
This is Inwood. It's the northernmost neighborhood in Manhattan, like the opposite end of the island from Wall Street and Times Square and all the stuff you think about when you think about New York City. Inwood is a largely Hispanic community. It's probably about 60 to 70% Dominican. New York City is like the biggest small town in the world. People really stick in their communities. Small coffee, please. Cream, no sugar. I walk to work. I walk to the little bodega, the corner store. You sort of get to know the people that you see on your little route. Fatherlessness is definitely an issue in our community. And I think one of the most important things that we can do is to come alongside families, to be father figures for kids. If the right men don't come along and invest in the lives of children, they're very likely to spend time with the wrong men. When my wife, Lindsay, and I first moved to New York City, I took a job teaching math at a public school in Harlem. Little did I know that it would be the most dangerous school in New York City that year. It had the highest incident of student injuries per capita. It's the largest public school system the world has ever known. There's over 1.1 million students in this school system. But it wasn't what God had for me, because the thing that kept rising up in my mind was that one new Christian teacher in one school wasn't gonna get the job done. And what the community really needed was a whole church. One of the things that has guided ministry for us in our gatherings, our worship services, our home groups, or whatever, but also in all our ministry in the community, is the undivided attention of a caring adult is magical. If you grow up and you never have an adult look at you, like look at you and listen to what you're saying, how can you ever believe that there's an invisible God that cares about what you think, what you say? Kids these days are facing some pretty heavy stuff. They're gonna be calling the shots tomorrow. We need to do something about that. But that's where it gets really messy. He chooses a child, but he uses adults. And that's what I don't want you to miss today. I asked you to look out for it. Who were the adults that God used to bring Samuel up. Friends, our children, they are the next big thing.
Here are the lesson plans that go upstairs. My husband and I have 3 daughters, and 2 years ago we moved our whole family to New York City. Most of our family relationships are single parents, a lot of single moms. Who do you think probably did that? Kyle, you're so creative. We're gonna get started, so let's move over to the carpet. Sunday morning is really important to me. I spend a lot of time preparing for what the kids at our church learn.
Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young.
I would say equally as important are the things that we do outside our church for kids in the neighborhood. I don't think you have to be a part of a mentoring program. If your church has one, that's great. But we all have children in our lives if we really look for it. How was your weekend? I didn't see you. You got your hair cut. Just the fact that they know that there are people that care about them really matters. It matters to their relationship with the Lord, and it matters to their future in the church. He had a goat one time. That is a silly story.
Easty's not a chicken.
On Mondays, I pick them up after school. Alejandro, I take him to the library. All right, let's see if we can find Hey Song in here. Excellent, Alejandro. Another lady from our church, Hey Song, tutors him a little bit. Anybody can do that. Anybody can just sit and give a kid some attention, know their name. It really matters to them. It makes a big difference. Yeah.
There are times when it's time for me to go to soccer, and I don't feel like going for whatever reason. But the important thing, really, is for me to just be there. For them to know that there is an adult in their life that cares about them.
All right, skips. Watch Johnny, he's a professional skipper. All right. Slow it down a little bit. We're not racing there.
I found out about this program through another friend of mine, and I was really surprised to hear that there was such an awesome program that happened in my own neighborhood.
Let's go, guys!
Most of the kids that come to Uptown Soccer come from lower income homes, and they grow up with a passion for soccer without really any outlet for them to play.
Hey, Johnny, when you got pressure, look back. Stephanie's wide open right there.
We offer them 3 quality practices every week where they can come and learn fundamental skills and also scrimmage and play.
5, 4, 3.
I feel like God has given each and every one of us passions and gifts, and He has given us those for a reason.
Yeah, you're Santiago. Valentin, what's up?
I've been building relationships with kids and really getting to invest in their lives. Whatever you're passionate about, whatever gifts God has given you, take those and use them to give back and to serve the kids in your community.
No, go.
I feel honored that God has placed me where He has placed me. I feel like He really has trusted me with a lot, and that means everything to me.
All right, get going again. Start it up, guys.
I am here and ready to participate.
I am here and ready to participate.
I am here and ready to participate. We have some great relationships as a church with some of the public schools in our neighborhood, and at one of those schools, they do a group with a group of boys.
Welcome, everyone, to week 18.
They're all boys that sort of were recognized that just need a little extra guidance in what it means to be a boy and what it means to grow up into a young man.
We'll start off with our usual opening ritual.
I will use positive language. I will think about what I am saying.
They came up with all their own rules, and then they hold themselves accountable to these rules. And that's an important thing because we're teaching them how to be a man, which is you're self-led.
Describe how your favorite feeling feels without using the feeling word.
I feel like the color purple in like the orange world. Not knowing where I'm going.
And then each time we get together, there's some kind of focus. Like the last time we got together, it was about emotions, naming them, because a lot of kids don't even know how to name emotions or recognize them, and that's important in developing empathy. I like to feel tranquil.
Tranquil.
I like to be. I don't
even know what that is.
It just means like at peace.
I like to be lazy because I like to sleep a lot.
And so it's kind of all that with a good measure of silliness thrown in. Okay, so on card number 1, write an emotion, but you want to keep it a secret. Don't let anyone see it.
Tired.
3,
Silly.
2, 1,
Can I put the picture in the back?
and you're done. Pass the stack to the right.
Both for them.
Read that word, put it on the bottom of the stack, and do your best job drawing the picture. Not you have 2. Even if you didn't finish, you only have 1.
Oh, D. Oh, I messed it up.
And pass them down to me. Okay, so he did his best shot. Let's see what that turned into. Oh, happy. Okay, we went from brave to happy. Little miscommunication.
It's a cyclops with a beard smiling.
What is that?
It was a happy cyclops with a beard, which turned into silly. You're happy.
Yo, mom.
Yo, mama.
Yo mama, apparently a cyclops again. And he's still happy. You know, it's simple getting involved in the life of a kid. It's not always easy because I'm busy. I'm really busy. I've got my own stuff going on. But it's worth it. Cameron is a 5th grader that he and his mother got involved in our church. So I knew him from Sundays, I knew him from Fridays. And then his mother had a gap in her schedule on Tuesday evenings that she didn't have anyone to look after him.
Let's go up here.
And I just offered to hang out with him for an hour on Tuesdays.
You might be interested in what I have in this bag right here.
Then welcome to a car.
That's right.
Awesome.
Cameron's dad is not involved in his life. I know that he misses it because he says things, his mother tells me things.
Remember how to do it? Better. Then you gotta put that thing back up.
And so all I can sort of do is help give him a reason to believe that our Father actually exists. Maybe give him a little glimpse that if some man could care about me a little bit, maybe there's a God who cares about me.
What?
The other day, I was with Cameron's mother on the street, and we were just talking, and she's been contemplating getting his name changed because he still has his father's last name. But he sort of jokingly asked his mom if he could make my last name his new middle name.
It's kind of hard to steer that far away.
But then, like about an hour later, I was at home and I was making the bed. And the weight of that fact just sprung up on me. And I've spent an hour a week with this kid for 6 months, and he's ready to take my name. Are you kidding me? Why would you not want to do that?
Every little girl longs to be daddy's little girl. They long to capture his imagination, to be loved by him, to see him, and for him to see her, and for him to say, I love you, and for him to be her Valentine, and to take her on dates, and to be the first man that ever gives her flowers, the first man to buy her a ring, the first man who says, I love you, and you're my daughter. And there's a security in that, and there's a love in that, and there's a belonging and acceptance that's found in that. But when dad leaves, it wilts the dream of ever being daddy's little girl.
Amongst these thick, dark leaves, I've forgotten what it is like to hope for an escape. I cannot find my way through these heavy branches. I cannot squeeze between these trunks that engulf me. I am trapped. The trees tower over me, reminding how small and inferior I am to them. This forest that cages me in has stolen my chance at a life. The life within the springs, underneath the clouded sun, live as I, alone, and searching for sunlight, hoping one day that we will be provided the warmth we have always desired. My mother had said to me, God has given up on this family. God forgot about us. God forgot about you. And he's no longer there for us anymore. Until I was 13, I lived in a wilderness. It wasn't a literal forest, but that doesn't mean it wasn't real. My mother was like the forest, abusing my brother and me. She would rather have done drugs and chase after men's love than to protect and raise me. We would live in houses that had no electricity or had no water or just no gas. We would live in nothing but darkness. We would eat hot dogs over candlelight, or we would eat, one whole summer I spent eating raw potatoes because we had no food. For a year and a half, my stepdad trapped me within the deepest of the trees. He would wrestle with us and play with us like we thought you were supposed to wrestle and play with your father, and he started putting his hands down my shirts and down my pants and started doing things like that for a little while, because I had never had a real father figure in my life, I didn't know if it was wrong or if I was imagining it or what was okay. When I told my mother that he was molesting me, the night before, a lot of bad things had happened to my mom from Matt. He had beat her ruthlessly, and so when I told her, she said, "You're lying, you're trying to ruin my family, you're tearing my family apart." And then she stormed out of the house and ran away with him to Iowa. So to know that to all men, the only attention I was ever worth was with my body was heart-shattering. My real father never loved me properly. He was always drunk, really. He never would go out places with me. My dad would say to me, I met a woman in a bar one night and I have to deal with it for the rest of my life. I always felt like I was fighting for his love and acceptance and that I never actually quite reached it. I wish, the other day I was in Arby's and I saw this dad bring his daughter in and he kissed her on the forehead. And I was like, that would have been really cool if that would have been my father. And with that, I left my heart buried beneath the leaves and walked away without marking the trunks. I didn't plan to ever have anything to do with it again. I knew I was stuck in the forest with no mother and no father. I knew Connor was my tree to lean on when I let the whisper of the leaves trick me into faulty happiness. I knew I was Connor's tree to lean on when I swore promises of escape to him, even if I felt they were empty. But my heart picked at me otherwise. I believed somewhere deep within me that not even the ruthless forest could be my last chance at love and happiness. I believed there was a path being formed that I could not yet see that would eventually lead me to security. One day, I woke up to a light finding its way through the branches.
I started coaching third grade football, and Connor was one of the young men that we had on the team, and that's how I met him. And from about the third grade on, he was at our house every summer, and he just become a part of the family, really, but he always had to go back to his.
Tony was different from most people because I think he saw something in me, and he knew that deep down I was a better person than what I came off to be. He was the only one willing to dig deep enough to find out what it was.
You always got your eye open, but you don't want to stick your nose in nothing that doesn't involve you.
We were laying in bed one night talking, and I think maybe Connor was there or he had been there and we'd taken him home. And Tony said, he goes, we're going to end up with that kid someday. And I said, you're probably right. you know, fast forward a year or so later.
It all just fell in place, you know. He calls me, they're having a situation. I pick them up, they come back and they stay. We stay up till, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning talking. So we went through all the classes. Then they told us, well, after 2 years, we'll move them to some other house, some other foster family. And we wasn't gonna let that happen. We was like, well, they're a part of our family. After 2 years, you just can't say goodbye and see ya.
I'd say we thought about it a lot, but we really didn't either, because we knew in our hearts the right thing to do, so it was a no-brainer. But the thing I kept coming back to is that, for the first time, you see hope in their eyes, and it's like, I am not gonna be the one to take that away from them.
No.
We're not gonna be the ones to take that away from them.
But I didn't have a doubt. I knew they'd be here. I knew they'd be here. And we'd have done whatever it took to make sure that they did.
The trees were no longer cold and dark. Their leaves were shining, a dripping of the last dreading dew, and glistened with the newness of hope. The smell was no longer musty, and I no longer choked on the thick air. The path was rough and had some big stones, but it led to love, which made the scars and bruises worth it. These were people that I knew of, but I didn't know personally. I didn't even know Sherry's name. I kept having to ask Connor, what's her name again? What's her name?
She was not gonna get attached. This was just a roof over her head, food on the table. She was not planning.
That's a 13-year-old girl.
She was not planning to get a family.
Sherry tried really, really hard to be really close to me, and I would just push her away. I just wanted to go to my room every day and sleep and run away from the world.
We've had our blow-ups where, you can't just stay in that dang thing all day long. You need to come out here and communicate.
Sherry was the one who had spent with me days learning how to apply my makeup, how to do my hair. She had been with me to talk about boys and to talk about friends and to get ready for a new school. She was the one who dealt with me through all the horrible things my father had said to me.
There's a lot of attention and focus on them, so you still try to make your biological kids feel important and part of the family. Trying to keep everything equal and even so nobody gets their feelings hurt. I said, and we still struggle with that. It's been 3 years and we still struggle.
Every day.
It's very hard.
Our journey never led us out of the forest, but to a new part of the forest. We found a family that shone like a bright ray of sunshine within the clouded world. They rescued us, not by bringing us into a new world, but by giving us the world.
Boys, Connor, Jake, time to get up. Kaylann, let me know, get up.
Life now, compared to before I moved in with them, is a billion times better.
Kaylann?
Yeah?
I'm leaving.
All right, bye, love you.
Love you too. Have a good day.
Tony knew that I had problems, but he pushed on and kept trying, and he believed in me, and he became my friend. Like, whenever he was teaching me how to drive, he yelled a lot, but it was just because I had no idea what I was doing. He laughed with me and joked with me about it instead of just giving up on me completely.
At first, I wasn't used to it, but we all can get along and we all can communicate and be ourselves around each other. Don't know what it'd be without them here.
Connor, do you need lunch money? This better get you through next week.
It'll get me through next week. No, it won't. You're right, it probably won't, but
My best friend's living with me. That's like every kid's dream.
Everybody sees us and they think, oh, you guys are such a perfect family. You're so wonderful. They don't see what really goes on, and they don't see the struggles that we do have every day.
You guys are dumb. All right.
I'm not dumb.
What?
We get whiplash going to the junior high.
It's because you make me mad. The woman on the driving test said that my stops were great, so...
You got an 82.
I don't care. Huh?
Most people pass with
No, most people pass with like
Kaylann,
70.
I love you, but you're not the best driver.
It don't suck. I can
You're
drive.
not bad. You're just not the best.
I have 2 feet. They can get me there.
Okay.
Okay.
You do that.
I will.
Okay.
Okay.
You need to go get dressed.
I have approximately 29 minutes until Whiplash over here leaves. Get dressed, brush my teeth, put on some deodorant, some body spray, and walk out the door.
Just go do it.
Gotcha.
Brush your teeth 2 times because you smell extra bad.
Well, I have Eric and Jake tattooed on my calf, and I thought, you know what? I got 2 more kids. So I got Connor and Kaylann's name tattooed on my other calf.
When I first saw the tattoo, I cried, and that was the very first time I told him that I loved him and actually meant it and wasn't just saying it.
Tony was always there for me, letting me know that it's not the end of the world if I do one thing bad, being that father figure that had never been there for me before.
He gets to know me, and he gets to know the things that I love. He wants to be a part of my life. That's what makes him different.
I mean, we're all different people. We are all very different now than what we used to be. But I like to think that we're better. I know I used to live in La La Land, and some days I wish I was still there. You know that there's bad stuff out there, you know that this stuff is happening, but it doesn't really directly affect you, so you can tune it out and pretend it doesn't happen. I go back and I look, and I think about all the times that we had Connor at our house, and we would have to take him home, and I think about that look on his face when we would drop him off. Now, knowing what I know, it absolutely breaks my heart. And I think, why didn't we do something sooner? I just sit there and I think about the fear that they felt no child should ever have to feel that way, ever.
You begin to wonder, what's God's expectation for us? And how do we respond to this? Is this just something the government should handle with child support? Or is this something that we have to respond to personally? And I believe it is. If you look at some of the things in Scripture, the Scripture of Psalm 68:5 that says, God is father to the fatherless. And some of these Scriptures that talk about God's heart for the fatherless. We begin to say, the Bible calls us to be imitators of God. And so how can we, as imitators of God, a God who calls himself father to the fatherless, how can we be any less?
Doctors are struggling tonight to save the sole survivor of a family murder-suicide case. Police are blaming the father.
I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1980. My parents didn't have much money, and they were pretty young when they first got married. They had my brother first, Michael. 3 years later, they had me. There'd be times when my dad would beat my mom so badly that she would take me and my brother to a battered women's shelter. It was normal to us. We really didn't see any other kind of a relationship. She kept taking him back. She kept thinking he would change. She even told my aunt, he would never hurt the kids, so we're gonna give it another try. Well, they were getting a divorce, and my dad kept, trying to get more chances. He kept begging for more chances, and my mom would let him come over, and he said this was on a Sunday, and he had asked for one more chance. He was under the influence as well that night, and they started arguing. They had put us to bed. To hear them yelling in the other room, it was normal to us. I don't know how long it lasted, but my dad finally, he put his hands around my mom's neck and he started to squeeze. And he finished her off by laying her down at the foot of the bed, suffocating her with a pillow. Then he went to his closet and grabbed his .38, came into our room. He walked over to my brother, stuck the gun point blank to the back of his head and pulled the trigger. He turned to where I was, stuck the gun to the back of my head, right behind my left ear, and pulled the trigger. He then went to the living room, sat in his chair, and took his own life.
5-year-old Christopher Keith of Tulsa is in critical condition at St. Francis Hospital. His parents, Ted and Deborah Keith, are dead, so is his 8-year-old brother.
I got the call from Beverly, and she had never cried on the phone. She said, it's Debbie and the boys. And I said, I'll be right there. And I drove as fast as I could get home.
This southeast Tulsa home is a scene of a family tragedy. Police say 27-year-old Ted Michael Keith shot and strangled his 27-year-old wife, shot his 2 sons, and then turned the gun on himself. About 9:30 this morning, police found 3 of the victims dead.
One officer reported that on my body, rigor mortis already started setting in. He said my body had no pulse and my muscles were cold and stiff. By the grace of God, when one of the paramedics was leaving, he saw a movement.
We got one alive.
Officers found 5-year-old Christopher Keith barely alive. Life flight crews rushed him to St. Francis Hospital. Police say the shootings may have occurred over 12 hours ago, and all evidence points to the father.
My dad didn't miss. The bullet went in behind my left ear, destroyed my cerebellum, which is the back part of the brain, which controls movement, function, and came out right behind my right ear. It didn't get all the bullet out. It was shattered, so there's still fragments of the bullet in my brain.
Like I said, he's a selfish. If he wasn't going to get to live, neither was none of his family.
Debbie didn't think he would do anything to the boys, but she felt like there's a possibility that he might do something to her. And so she said if anything ever happened to her, that she wanted us to raise the boys.
It was quite a deal. But I think the time that I remember the most is when he was in PICU, and I told Beverly I was gonna get me a Pepsi, and he said he whispered, he said, "Can I have one too?"
Yeah, bring me one too.
I started crying. I thought, boy, isn't that something? He's got his voice. He can speak.
The state of Oklahoma told them, you know, you can't tell this kid what happened. So for the longest time, I was led to believe that I was in a car accident and I was the only one that survived.
At that time, we had an article, the first time we took him to a counselor, and he said, show him the article.
But we all sat down. The room went silent. Mr. Tyner stood up and started talking, and my grandpa started talking. They said, I mean, we just don't know the right time to tell you all this, but we figured it's time to tell you about your life. And I was just speechless. I didn't know what they were talking about. And it was almost like this all had just happened again. Just all these emotions, and then you just add all this extra hatred on top of that, hitting my dad for what he did, hitting my mom for taking him back for so many times, being mad at my grandparents for not telling me about my life. Why did I survive and my brother didn't? Just all this survivor's guilt. So we went home that day and I did the same thing. I went to my room, I waited for the day to end.
He was starting to show anger, and we felt like a lot of that anger was directed at us.
I'd lay in my bed at night and wonder if life was worth it. Would anybody miss me? And just miserable days. And I'd lay in bed, sometimes I'd cry myself to sleep, sometimes I would just lay there until I couldn't stay awake any longer.
I told him, I said it would be so much easier, Chris, to let you do what you want to do. And I said, but I can't do that. I said, and I felt like I owed it to Debbie, you know, for us to do the best that we could do. I don't think I ever could have, you know, given him up, but there's times when I thought it would be so much easier.
It's something in my head would tell me that, you know, I can't give up on life, because if I gave up on life, that would make me like my dad. Even though I've had all this information for 2-3 years, I didn't share it. I didn't advertise it. I wanted to be a normal kid. Nobody knew about it.
We knew that we'd already been taking him to church, and we knew we were going to keep that up to have that type of an influence.
I was probably about 14, and there was a church youth group function. My friend Michael, you know, asked me if I wanted to go, and I didn't really have much to do. I didn't want to go, but I didn't have much to do, so I said, yeah, that's cool. I remember going, and there was some kind of a service or something on Saturday night, you know. I snuck out the back. I didn't really want to be there, and I went back to the dorm room. And when I walked in, I heard the door behind me, and it was my youth minister, Jason. And, you know, he came up to me and he said, Chris, you know, you talk a lot and you make jokes, but you never really say anything about talk about yourself or your life. But I can see in your eyes that something's wrong. And I mean, if it's okay with you, I'd like to know a little bit more about you. I pulled out the newspaper article that I carried in my wallet, and I handed it to him. I said, okay, read this. He just started like crying. I just thought it was a huge weakness for a man to cry. So first of all, I was shocked that this guy I respect is sitting here crying about a piece of paper. That was a huge night for me, because I realized that people actually care about me. And we talked afterwards, and he said, Chris, this is an amazing story. And maybe not now, you're not ready for it now, but someday you have to share this and try to help others. So I just kind of tried to hold on. Something inside me kept telling me to hold on. And eventually I started growing in my faith and realized what that was telling me to hold on. And that was, you know, my Heavenly Father.
Doing a documentary on Chris Keith.
This is as far as we go, folks.
Uh-oh.
Sweet.
That was awesome, Chris.
I'm all thanks.
I, Chris, take you, Crystal.
I, Crystal, take you, Chris, to be my wedded husband.
As long as we both shall live.
Mr. and Mrs. Chris Keith.
I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future.
All right.
All right, bud, hold on.
There's a car.
No. I'll tell you when the car's coming.
All right.
It's amazing. Sometimes I sit back and I just thank God so much that I'm allowed the opportunity to have a son. I see myself as a kid when we're together.
He's one of the best dads anybody can ever have. And sometimes I think of him as an older brother and a dad.
What do you want to do tonight? Are you wanting to go bowling?
Yes, I really want to go bowling.
You do? You think you could beat me?
Yes, no.
You're doing great.
When I see him with Dylan, it just reminds me of Debbie so much.
So much patience and so much love for him. You can see it.
Hey, Dad, when I put the thumbs up, go, okay? All right, are you on?
Yep.
Is this on live? News drive report. There's a strange man gonna jump off this bridge. I don't know what he's thinking, but it's kind of weird.
Man, I never make it.
You okay?
Let me try it again.
Whoa, that was crazy.
I can't do it.
One more time.
Whew.
One more time,
Last
Dad.
time.
One more time.
He's a really good dad, and he loves Dylan with everything he has, and they have a lot of fun together.
I'm wet. Are you wet?
Yeah, I'm really wet.
That's good.
Last year, my wife and I got certified, and we started doing foster to adopt, and we got 3 amazing kids for the whole summer.
You ready to go swimming, Sammy? Oh, all right. That was fun. If you think about this whole summer living here, what has been your most favorite part?
Having someone who loves me.
It's made me realize how important being a foster parent is and being somebody in their life that they can trust for an amount of time. From the moment they came into our home, we just honestly felt like God wanted us to love them for right now and that we were not meant to be their parents.
And Crystal has a baby in her belly. Did you see that?
Oh, man.
I mean, honestly, it was probably the best summer of my life. And they're still in our lives, and it's fun to see them growing, and now they have a new family. I'm glad that we got the chance to be their temporary parents.
You understand that adoption is a final forever decision, and that once Judge Catterton grants this adoption, these children will be your children forever and ever, just as if they were born to you naturally.
Congratulations.
There's one true model, which of course is God, and once I realized that, it helped me in my life significantly. And I don't want to sit here and say, look at me, I'm perfect, because I'm not. I still struggle with trusting people. I still struggle with insecurities, but I'm trying. I have a second chance in life and just want to do what I can to try to help others.
So we're going to a juvenile facility, and luckily I had some people steering me the right direction. I could have easily ended up in this exact facility, and that's one thing that hits home to me, and it's very exciting to me to get to go here today and talk with these kids.
They're in here for the most horrendous crimes. Most of them that are in here because nobody cared about them. No mom and no dad, or mom or dad's in prison, or one of them's dead. About the only one that cares for them is maybe grandmother, and she's too old now to come see them, so they're left without anybody. Master control, outside 24, please.
These kids their hearts are very hardened, and they're acting tough on the outside, and it's very intimidating.
I was just suffering every night, But eventually, I let other people help me out, and it saved my life.
A lot of groups don't want to speak to these kids because they've given up on them. At-risk youth, you know, that's what they say. But speaking to these kids and looking in their eyes, you know that they're just kids that need a chance. They need to know that somebody cares about them.
My dad didn't do what he did. You know, he wasn't like a perfect saint, and all of a sudden, that Sunday, he decided to do that. It's just one step at a time, he was making bad decisions.
That's how we all are as we sit in our house or in our church or everywhere. We're all one decision away from ending up in a place like that or ending up going the other way.
Tomorrow's gonna be a monumental day. It's gonna be the first time, and it's been 25 years that I'm gonna go see his gravesite. So it's gonna be a pretty big day for me tomorrow. Okay. Where is it? These are lots. So many things were uttering through my mind. You know, one hand I wanted to, you know, spit on his grave. The things I'll never get to do with my brother or with my mom because of what he did. And so forgiveness is something that's been hard to do, and it took me years to understand what that might mean.
What did you do?
You know, I used to hate him for what he did. At the same time, he's my dad. I guess as a man of God, it's my responsibility to show some compassion to people. Who am I to go in these places and speak to these kids that have done some things and say, I don't care about your past, I'm here to let you know I care about you, then, you know, stomp on my dad's gravesite. What's done is done, and I don't know, so it's just kind of, I guess, my little part to say, you know what, in the end, I did love you, I do love you.
Tried to ruin my life. Don't know why.
What you did to me and my family is not gonna affect our lives growing. My son, my wife, my new daughter, we're gonna make it. And you're not gonna see it, but we're gonna make it. And so maybe that was just a way of kind of, I don't know if it's a gesture, but, you know, saying I forgive you with actions instead of words.
We go downstairs to the playground, we fight downstairs.
How does the sword come into it?
Oh, we're ninjas. We're like ninjas.
So it's ninjas versus zombies?
Practically. It's really cool.
So which are you?
I'm a ninja.
We have all been abandoned. We have all been thrown away.
I'm gonna have macaroni and cheese and shrimp.
We are blind with no direction. We're lost with no place. And through the hurl and the aching, through the tears.
Focus now, so you better bring your A game.
We have heard and we're hopeful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I get you guys anything else?
That doesn't.
Call us your daughters.
our new family went with me into the darkness and helped me recover my shattered heart from the forest floor. Tony showed me I could have a man in my life that didn't hit or abuse me. He became my father tree, a forever memory of what all men should be. Sherry showed me that I was worth love and acceptance, and that my body wasn't my only ticket to being cherished. She became my mother tree. Their sons, Eric and Jake, opened their hearts and their home. They showed us a life full of laughter. They became brother trees. There's more to people than what they seem, and that everybody deserves to be believed in. We need to have hope in everybody, even when no one else does.
Taylor Swift. I like Taylor Swift.
I think 5 or 6 years we had prayed and hoped for another baby, and at times I thought that it wasn't going to happen. It made us think a lot more about adoption and fostering. Right when we started fostering, the moment they left is when Crystal got pregnant, and it's just amazing, you know, how God takes care of you and sometimes just says, hey, chill out, you know, everything's going to be all right.
There's a baby sting.
Yeah.
The dark part of the forest is behind us. There are people who provide strength and shelter. I have found security amongst these tall trees. They showed me God never forgot me. All along, He was amongst the trees, holding my hand. My Lord had sent me into a strange, dark forest to lead me to where I needed to be, to a place where I can be a tree.
Do you, Everyday Church, promise to help Kimberly and Carlos and Lynette in their effort to raise Audrey and David?
We do.
We do.
Lord Jesus, we commit to you, David and Audrey, today. And I want you to know that we are willing and available to help.
See you, bud.